Many people just don't understand that is a direct proportion of going against your own well-being. And people don't understand that until it's too late. Our society creates the confusion that creates the stressors in our lives. I think many times we understand that our environments they tend to overcome us, and we tend to not know who we are as individuals, right? So what tends to happen is, especially in the military, we identify ourselves as individuals through the military. Sergeant so and so, special so and so, but whatever it is, whatever you've done. So then when you come out of the military, it's like, well, who am I? Because you come out more of an identity crisis than basically when you go in. Because when you go in, you actually like, oh, okay, I'm going to be a soldier, or I'm going to be a Marine, or I'm going to be an airman, whatever it is. But then when you come out, it's like, I've had this identity for so long, right? So usually that happens in addition to us being in a society through, like, give an example for like things as relationships in your homes. Oh, you're a son, you're a daughter, you're a husband, that type thing. What happens is that we use these labels, and all of a sudden you don't know who you are. That's the thing. So what we're going to talk about here is some things about who you are truly, in addition to some other aspects of how to handle specific things to get to a point of truly knowing who you are. So this is the agenda real quick. We're going from a basic understanding of things, where stages of consciousness, what is the impact of not knowing who you truly are, your current perception of who you are and why it is wrong, combating the programming, natural laws of virtue, how can I impact change in myself and others from what I know, things to remember. And then at the end of this, if we have enough time, people like this, the last time I did this, is you write an I statement. And I'll show you the construction of how to create that I statement. So then whenever you have a issue where you're having a hard time understanding who you are, you can always go back to your I statement. Some of these we already know, some of the stages of consciousness. Of course, we know the subconscious piece is basically any habit, beliefs operating automatically, the habitual way of thinking. Majority of the time, that habitual way of thinking gets us in trouble. We understand that. Then you go to the conscious piece of the way we are. So that's the active thinking. What do we do? Specific decisions of what we're doing that influence things that are going on in our lives. The highest form of consciousness that people negate to utilize is the superconscious. And I'll go into reasons why and how we were affected by that, or that type thing. But basically, that is the highest state of awareness where we connect with wisdom, intuition, and true essence beyond social conditioning. We're social creatures, so we tend to be easily persuaded in a sociological way of being. And what happens is we stop thinking for ourselves inside this super conscious way of thinking. So these are the three stages. And what I'm going to be really focusing on is the super conscious piece, but then also some of the areas of like how the subconscious mind hijacks us. We already know that. Impacts of not knowing who you truly are. We see this and we feel this. And I'm going to talk about what our souls are trying to tell us versus our egos are trying to tell us. Okay. So the first one is basically the impacts of not knowing who you are is loss of moral compass. You'll be basically being aimlessly lost and not understanding the position in life that you're in. Okay. So when that does happen, your moral compass is just like going everywhere. It's not even going to a specific direction. Confusion. You don't know if your true self. You start to take opinions and thoughts of others that are not aligned with the laws of nature. And I'm going to go off of the laws of virtue that we're going to talk about. And then also you're easily manipulated and persuaded in ways to go against your true self. Many people just don't understand that is a direct proportion of going against your own well-being. People don't understand that until it's too late. Our society creates the confusion that creates the stressors in our lives. And it's easier for us to be manipulated by things, right? Because we're not staying aware about situations. And so then if you're not aware about the situation, you are not being connected to your superconscious. Why do I feel something is missing within? All of this chaos that's going on around us, it becomes, we have stressors in our lives, but in addition to, where we have fear in certain ways and all this other stuff, it's just so many different elements that we have to deal with. So the reason why you're feeling that something's missing is basically you're constantly bombarded by stimulation. These phones that we have are just a massive problem. So you have that in addition to, you have social media, you have regular media, you have everything that is just continuously overrunning your mind to just quiet things down. And then you're making decisions off of things that are more ego based driven versus actually soul driven. And when that happens, you get yourself in trouble. It also impairs your decision making. Without the clarity and the insight gained from the moments of silence and solitude, you may struggle to make decisions that are aligned with natural laws of virtues that create your values, aspirations of your higher human self. This can lead to feelings of uncertainty, regret, inner conflict as you navigate life's choices without strong connection to your inner guidance. We understand that as you do these things, we're more reactionary versus responding to things. The last one is disconnecting from authentic self. I don't know, many people don't understand this or don't get this, is that we were born with certain virtue traits. And what happens is that we have been inundated by all of these things. And it's like you have a core, which is your area of virtue. And then all of a sudden you have all this garbage that's on top of you. So when that happens, you're blocked from your inner self. And when you're blocked out from your inner self, what happens is you feel like you're disconnected from your authentic self. I know for me, I dealt with this. And I started dealing with this years ago when I first got here. And as I went through my journey continuously, I've understood these things, and also reading books and all this other stuff that I did research and stuff like that. It really starts to make sense about why this happens. Your current perception of who you are and why it's wrong. Okay. As I stated before, most of the time our identities are based on our past, our beliefs. But the thing is, that's not your true essence of who you are. We don't understand that. We just assume that, oh, well, all the experiences I dealt with, that's who I am. No, that's a symptom. That's not who you truly are. Society and culture, personal experiences, like I said, your roles, your achievements. I don't know about you guys, but I felt like every time I achieved something, it was an achievement, but it wasn't fulfilling for me. I was always trying to chase to the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, but I was never fulfilled. So that right there, when people talk about achievements, that's a massive thing. You'll be lost in the sauce constantly if you do that. Labels create limitations, keep you trapped in a false identity based on fear, expectations, and comparison. So, but true identity is not what you've been told, it's the deep, unchanging essence beyond the mind's narratives that we've had before birth. And like I said, I'm going to go over what that is. To help you awaken yourself, your true self, you must unlearn the programming and reconnect with your inner wisdom. Robert Sharma says, a bad day for the ego is a great day for a soul. Yeah. And it's so true. Your ego is the enemy of your soul. You get that ego out of the way, everything else starts to come into play. These are just some of the perceptions that we have that this is not who we truly are. I think many of you understand that we're dealing with it now. It feels like it is a program. We're living in like matrix type thing. It's crazy, right? It's crazy. So some of the ways that you can combat the programming is disconnect from technology as much as possible. So one of the biggest things that I've done is any notifications that I have on my phone, I don't have notifications. Like I'll have like notifications for like for my children, but like news, social media, that and I don't have notifications. People telling me, "Oh, you got a notification here, you got a notification there." I don't have that because what was happening with me was I was getting more anxious when that was happening, and then on top of that, you get addicted to it, and here we go. Huh? So the second part is connecting with your soul as a compass to decipher information. We're so used to utilizing our ego to decipher information versus our actual souls to decipher. Think about that. Okay? I'll read this piece because it's pretty deep here. Without the clarity and insight gained from moments of silence and solitude, you may struggle to make decisions that are in alignment with natural laws of virtues that create your values and aspirations of a higher human self. This can lead to feelings of uncertainty, regret, inner conflict as it narratives life's choices without strong connection to your inner guidance. We have, like I told you again, I go back to the piece of we're born with this. We've just lost the connection with it. We're born with it. The third part of it is trying to fortify your soul, make it a priority. So making your soul the priority when you're trying to make decisions. We get caught up in anger based type situations where we're like, oh, whatever, we see something, we get triggered and that type thing. And also because of the environment, the political environment that we're in now and the social and all these pressures, it it just really hurts us to that point that we don't make the soul the priority. Now, when I talked about the laws of virtue, right? What I found out was I was doing some research, and a lot of this research came about through different ways and books and other scientists and other things, spiritual individuals that I came about with these five laws of virtue. And this is not you're not gonna be fine. I made this up, but I've seen this stuff, and I'm like, okay, reading this, just going through it, and these are like the five different things that I've constantly, continuously seen. Talk, listening to this person, you cross-reference this, and it looks like this, and it just becomes this thing. These are the five things that I've gotten. So the laws, the virtual laws that we're born with is empathy and compassion. That's one. The well-being of others, contribution, love, and then inherent social interconnection. So these five things we're born with, and we've just forgotten these things. As when you're a child, between the certain part of like from 0 to 7, and then even a little bit later, we tend to be more of compassionate individuals, empathetic towards individuals. We're more loving. We're more of a connection between others. You want to take care of people. When you see kids play around, right? Most of the time it's like, oh, you fell. Oh, it's okay. That type thing. They have this innate thing that we're all born with. But what happens is as we get older and we get tainted by society, we lose this. And when we lose this, we lose who we are, and we have that emptiness inside of us that people don't understand, the true self, the soul. So these are the five laws, the virtues, natural laws that like I said, I've come to see, and connecting all the dots with many of the research that I've done. How can I impact change in myself and others from what I know? I learned a lot of this stuff through my trial, and I've done it for 7 years already. And one of the biggest pieces that I know is when I started doing mindfulness and going back to with Diane, I remember I didn't know what mindfulness was. She said it, and I was like, maybe she's doing woo type of thing. And I was like, what are you talking about? So I was, but then she started telling me how to do it, and I started doing it. And then I regressed. It didn't work. And I'm like, this sucks. I'm not going to do this. I was doing all of these things. But as I started getting better at one, I progressed to the other. And then I went to the other. And then I went to the other. So now I'm at a point where I'm not like a yogi, but I understand daily, in order for me to practice mindfulness and become such an aware individual, you have to do this daily. So I've incorporated this in my lifestyle. It's going to be with me for the rest of my life. And it creates such a connection with your soul that you start to clear out the noise that's going on around you, where you can critically think now. And when you can critically think to a point of like, you hear things from, like I said, society, news, and all this other stuff. You're like, the sky's falling. And you just like, hold on, let me get back to self. So that is one of the things. And if you're able to start to do this, you are going to be so much closer to yourself. It's crazy. I never thought, if you would have asked me 7 years ago, hey, you would feel so closer to yourself, I'd be like, the hell out of here.
It's weird to say that shit, isn't it?
Yeah.
I say it, bro, like cursing with conviction because it's so fucking weird to say because I feel the same exact way, bro.
Correct. Because when you have this solace within inside of you, it is so easy to be able to not be persuaded by garbage versus everybody else is just being reactionary, the ego-based driven way of thinking. And it's a dangerous thing because all you're doing is going against your own well-being. People don't understand that. Embodiment before influence. True change starts within. Embody the virtues and wisdom you've uncovered. Lead by example. Many of us understand in the military, what are the biggest things? Lead by example, right? Lead by example. We understand that, right? But a lot of times, like I say from the beginning, we've lost that. When we come out of the military, it's not about lead by example anymore. It's like, oh, well, I'm out. I don't care. Yeah, I'm out of the military. I'm out of this. the police force or whatever. I don't have to adhere to a higher standard that I know that I should hold myself as. Because most of the time, that's what we do. Question and reprogram your beliefs. Many of the times, our beliefs come from things or people that are not ours. So we inherit this crap, right? We inherit it. So we understand that these are just things that we inherently uh, are given, unfortunately, and we suck it in as individuals when you're young. You're a sponge when you're a child. You don't have the capacity to filter things out with your reticular activating system that's in your brain. It doesn't work that way. So children are easily influenced, and then these beliefs become who you are because of these individuals previously that your caretaker or whatever, your family, your environment, that type thing. Empower, don't impose. I guide others in their awakening rather than forcing your truth upon them. Be a source of light.
That's probably the importance of the empowerment and to not impose, if you will, because what you're doing right now is beyond powerful, and that we don't want to impose. We want to empower and just spread the message.
Correct.
Beyond what you're doing is beyond phenomenal.
Correct.
Salute to you.
Thanks. I look at things as I'm here as more of a vessel to try to affect change in a positive way because we got enough negativity in this fucking world. Okay, so I'm an individual that's like, I give you the information, you do what you want to do with it, but there's a method to the madness here. There is. Align actions with higher values. Many of us forgot that we have values. Many of us, that coincides with your actual soul because we have these values that we should be living towards as a species. But many a times we get affected by things, easily influenced. Boom, you get caught up in it, and all of a sudden you're just like, well, who the hell am I? You don't even know who you are anymore. You're just a sack of beliefs, disgruntled feelings, and all this other crap that, oh, victim mentality and all this other crap that you're just part of. So, yeah, these are just how you can impact yourself and others through these things here. So, these are just some of the things that I'd like to just have you guys remember out of this whole thing before we start doing our I statement. The biggest thing that I can take away from this is awareness. Become aware of distraction, confusion, and manipulation. When you utilize the techniques that we learn here, the mindfulness piece, meditation, these things really work. It just takes time. If you stay consistent with it, it becomes habitual in a positive way. And then things start to change. Then you become more aware of what's going on, what type of information that's coming into you, where you can actually decipher if it's trash or if it's actually something that's helpful for you. Reduce stress so not to go on autopilot. What happens is that when we go into stress mode, we go into autopilot. That's what happens. And it's the same thing. If you're stressed out and you're hungry, and let's just say, like for me, I was an MP, I did a 24-hour shift, as cops do too. You're on the shift, and all of a sudden, you're hungry, and you're like, hey, I don't care, I'm just going to eat anything.
3 o'clock in the morning, you want to eat dinner.
Yeah. You're like, oh, whatever. Well, that type of stress, your mind doesn't care about what you're eating versus if you weren't stressed out. So that is the thing. Reduce the amount of stress that you're affected with. I don't know if you guys know, but I had a mini stroke back in 2017. And the biggest reason why that happened was because I was so stressed
Self-induced.
that my body did that to me. I was having symptoms, heart symptoms. I had issues with my heart and they couldn't find anything. There was nothing wrong with my heart. Then all of a sudden, boom, had the mini stroke. It was like, whoa. I had to realize, like, hold on, I had to push things away. So stress can really do a number on you. Be intentional in everything you do. Don't go on automatic pilot. Stay connected with your superconscious at all cost. You got to do that. Use your I am statement to remind yourself to stay true to your natural laws of virtue.